Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers, and I'm looking at a book which is one of my favourites actually, because I teach evidence. It's this book here from Routledge Law, now in a third edition. It's been retitled, it's now called Evidence in Context, written by Jonathan Doak and Claire McGourlay. That's the front page, the side, and then some nice little testimonials and comments on the back. And you've got about 350 odd pages. You've got a nice little index, as you can see right at the back. Let me show you the book a little bit, because it's slightly different from the, you've got a norm. You've got lists of figures and tables which are produced. And what you have got are some quite useful examples, things like a scenario example, which is given there, which helps, I think, in the area of teaching evidence, because it's a complex subject. I particularly liked the comments in chapter 2 about what makes the trial system adversarial, which I think is very helpful because it gives a slightly different approach to the way in which one looks at some of these subjects. What I do also like is the quite useful endings, because you have what are known as key learning points, which you can see there. You've then got practice questions, which I think are also very helpful for those sitting exams, and suggested further reading, and the usual suspects are actually there in terms of the books. There are, of course, copious footnotes, which you can see there, and you've got paragraph numbering at the sides, which makes it easy to find. Do various information. Do read the preface at the front, which I think is very helpful. Let me tell you briefly why I think this is a very good book. We've given it the title, A Contextual Approach to the Fast-Moving Field of Evidence, which is what it is, of course. The review will be on the web and in the journals, and what I say is this, that the key concepts of the modern law of evidence are set out clearly and concisely by Doak and McGourlay in their new third edition, which is, as I say, changed to Evidence in Context. They explain away the change by widening the scope of the work to take account of developments in civil law. And the new edition, in my view, is certainly both accessible and stimulating, because the authors have concentrated on those topics which tend to feature most commonly on courses for law of evidence. That would include both the academic side and also the practitioner's side, because I teach on both. Any lecturer or student of evidence knows that the subject doesn't readily lend itself to the integration of what is called the contextual perspective. So what is refreshing about this work is the inclusion of wider policy debates and societal changes and trends, which undergraduate courses now often contain. Not particularly helpful, frankly, when it comes to the professional exams, but I think when you're looking at it in the round, it's much better to have that basis, because the case law, it becomes actually a bit easier to understand, I think. Because what we've got here for the practitioner is the gap between the practice of law and the law of the books, which is, I think, well highlighted throughout. The authors admitting that both threads don't always sit comfortably together in precise harmony. And I think the particular benefit of the book is for the wider readership, by exploring the practical significance of the rules of evidence, which is what the trainee solicitor or barrister will be looking for. And there are examples of reference outside the law in action, in other words, from the law reports themselves to a much wider area, and they draw on press and media reports as well as socio-legal studies. To us, of course, the modern law of evidence has always been a fast-moving field of substantive law, with significant new case law, and of course it's very case-heavy. I'm particularly pleased that they've looked very carefully at the Criminal Justice Act 2003 and what has been happening since. Obviously the problem we've got is that they describe the law itself as a disparate and unwieldy set of rules, not built around any single set of values or rationales. Well, that's the law of evidence for you. Let me conclude by saying that studying evidence remains difficult, in my view, when trying to identify any sense of coherency within the subject. But the two authors have relieved many of these difficulties by giving a balance between the need for a clear and accessible account of the subject with a necessary degree of analysis and context. And I think, therefore, the work remains essential reading for you when you prepare to be examined in evidence. It's your best revision friend in my view. So thank you to all concerned on an excellent publication. Bye bye.